All righty. Welcome to our weekly Zoom call, everybody. Today, we're going to be doing a couple different things. I got a few little housekeeping notes to mention and throw out at you. And then we're going to be doing a client spotlight on Christa Dunn. Last week, we kind of accidentally got talking about Dexter for about 20 or 30 minutes, who's been with me for a couple of years. And that was, I got a lot of good feedback on that. A lot of people saying that, hey, we should do more client spotlights. It's good to hear where somebody started, their struggles and, I don't like calling them failures, but, missteps along the way that maybe you stopped doing something for a while and you came back to it. And through all those little missteps, we learn a lot with it as long as we're being reflective with it. Brad, what's up? Where you at right now?
Pitching lessons.
Oh, baseball academy. Okay. I was like, that's not your house. All right, cool.
Random.
Anyway, though, so that's what we kind of talked about last week with Dexter. So we're gonna do the same thing with Christa today. But before we dive into kind of my little interview with Christa, I got to mention a few things. Number one, I kind of mentioned this last week, but I want to do a TLF community lift party at Body Shop Gym in Overland Park. I know not everybody here is in Kansas City. Everybody that's on the call is in Kansas City, but I've got people kind of spread out. So anybody that can make it, and I'll be sharing a lot of information with this now that I have kind of a date figured out. It's good to go with Body Shop, and I've got some other things kind of worked out that it's all going to work out. It'll be November 6th on a Sunday. The Chiefs do play that day, but it's not until 7:00 at night. So I wanted to make sure it was going to be that. I wanted to do it the week prior, but Brad and Lexi, Brad is on the call right here. Lexi's another client, are having a party the night before for Halloween. So I'm like, not trying to go hungover to that. Probably, and especially if I'm painted as like the Hulk, I definitely want to show up to the lift party looking like that. So we won't do it that day. So we'll do November 6th. Right now, the time that we're looking at is probably 9 to 11, just to get it not done with. I don't want to say it like that, but get it out of the way. You guys have Sundays to go do stuff with your family and whatnot. Again, that Chiefs game is that night. So, if people are going to be tailgating or enjoying their day with that, then, get up, start your day with a good workout. And ultimately the main reason why I want to do this is because, our community is growing quite a bit, and I want to kind of bring people together. I think it'd be a lot of fun. I haven't met a lot of people in person. The ones I have met in person, it's been a long time. It's hit or miss with that. So I think that would be awesome. I'm still trying to formulate exactly what it's going to look like. But a couple of things. I'll probably be creating a bunch of different workout plans for people to do. You can do on your own that day. And I'll be kind of bouncing around as like a trainer and helping you out with form, make sure you're doing things correctly, answer any questions, stuff like that. Just make sure that it's a good time for that. And then on top of that, I might be creating those workout plans and putting it into your guys' app, the people that are going to be coming to it. So that way you can kind of access that stuff and knock that out. And again, I'll be walking around helping with that, and people can kind of join in together. If there's 3 or 4 people hitting the same back workout, then go for it, train together. I think that'd be a lot of fun. I'm usually not a huge social person. TLF has really kind of forced that out of me to become more social with it. So I recognize that a lot of people here might not be that way, but I can promise you it's much scarier thinking about it and the anxiety leading up to a day like that than it actually is to just go there and have fun. Christa, who we're going to be talking with here in a little bit, she was training one-on-one with me for a while. Then we added in small group training, and I'm sure that was intimidating to an extent at first as well. Maybe a little anxious with it, but it always goes much smoother than what we think it's going to go. So there's that. I'm also going to be trying to do some incentives to get more people there. I'm happy if I only get 5 people, but I'm hiring a photographer and a videographer to come kind of capture the event. Obviously be good marketing stuff, but I think it'd be fun to be able to see that, especially for the first one, because I would like to do this, maybe eventually do it quarterly, maybe initially start off, once every 6 months or so. I think that'd be a lot of fun. I've got some donations kind of already in the works with things that I'll be doing giveaways for. I'll figure out how we're going to raffle off those different things with it, but kind of what I anticipate doing. I've got one, I'm working with a new company. We'll kind of dive into this a little bit more. I've got some of their information here. It's called Core Solutions. Here's some information on it. KLS IV Studios. So they essentially do IV ion injections or IM injections. So that would be like, what most people think about that is I get hungover from drinking the night before, I go get an IV injection, boom, I feel like $1 million that day. But obviously this is much more of a maintenance thing. So I think a couple of things, they've already offered me a couple different membership packages I can give away. Forgot the pricing on these, but oh yeah, here we go. So like a gold membership and a silver membership are like $300 for each month. And these are like 6-month memberships. So that's like an $1,800 value on some of these giveaways. So I'm super excited that they've offered that up. And then I'm in the works on getting some other stuff done. So that'll be again on November 6th from 9 to 11 at Body Shop. And I will be pumping out a lot of information about this over the next month. So if you can, mark your calendars, I'd love to have everybody there. It'll be a free event. If Caleb at Body Shop charges day passes, I'll just pay for all those things for everybody. Otherwise, it'll just be a good time to get a good workout in at a cool gym if you've never been there. So that's item number 1. And item number 2 kind of goes along with that. I would like to do that Wednesday before, so like 4 days prior on that Zoom call, is do more of a meet and greet. So this particular call, we're going to be talking to Christa, but this would be more of a, on the second, do more of a meet and greet, kind of show up, talk about what you do, things you do, how long you've been with TLF, just so we have a little bit of get to know you before we get to know each other in person at that event. So I'm really excited about it. Like I said, I would love for a big turnout, but I'm happy to see anybody there. But aside from that, let me go put my dog outside real quick before I have to throw him out the window, and then we'll dive into it. So Christa, be ready for me when I get back. Come on. All righty, I'm back. Thanks for your patience. Christa, do you want me to pull up that little PowerPoint thing?
Yeah, I was just gonna jot down some notes about things that you'd asked me to refer to, and then I was like, I'm such a visual person that
having it.
I'd rather
otherwise we get to rambling like I do.
Yeah, and sometimes your attention's pulled away during the Zoom, people have times they're multitasking, and
I feel that.
Well, cool.
I've got it pulled up. I need to share my screen right now. Perfect. Fix all this nonsense. All right, here we are.
Okay, so I don't want to insult anyone's intelligence, but I'm kind of just going to go through the slides. So I changed it from Client Spotlight to Client Journey because by no means do I feel like I should be in a spotlight. I feel like that's someone that's been successful. And I was really intrigued hearing about Dexter's journey the last time we were all together. And I told Marcus that, and then he was like, oh, why don't you share yours? And I was like, oh, okay. So kind of opening my mouth there. But so first we'll start with my timeline, and my antennas kind of got raised whenever Dexter said he had quit and then joined back again, because I'm also on my second journey with TLF. So to kind of give you some back history, sorry if it's like TMI about my personal health history, but in the spring of 2020, 10 days before Mayor Lucas closed down Kansas City, we had our first kid. And so we are at the height of COVID, and we'd already had our wedding probably like a year before that. And I hated all the photos. I didn't like how I looked. I wasn't healthy. And I started this pregnancy at an unhealthy weight, but kind of good and bad. I was like vomiting every day, couldn't find any medication that worked. So I didn't gain as much as what a normal pregnancy would. So I looked up, in a normal pregnancy, you gain 25 to 35 pounds. And I was at like 19, 21. So I was underweight for how much weight you gain during a pregnancy. Like we joked it was all in my ankles. Soon as I came back home from the hospital, dropped the weight really quickly. And I thought, okay, I got this. I'm going to get back to pre-pregnancy weight, and even better than that, I'm going to take care of myself. I'm not working. I'm going to be going on stroller walks and getting back into the gym. So I think I underestimated how much work and time a human being would take to take care of. Just like getting a pet, it changes your whole itinerary of your week. And so I wasn't much. We are also remodeling our basement, so I felt like I had to be available for construction workers. So I start work the fall after having a kid in the spring. I'm a teacher, and I have a coworker that is working with Marcus. And I'm like, oh, wow, you're a teacher. You're working with a personal trainer. Like, that's so bougie of you. I thought personal trainers were for wealthy people and it was a luxury. And so I'm thinking about maybe I could do this. And oh, you don't have to meet Marcus at a gym. You can do everything through your phone, through an app. And that was really appealing to me, especially when my confidence had nosedived about going to the gym. So spring 21 rolls around, I start TLF and I get pregnant again. And I'm like, oh shit, like, how am I going to do a weight loss journey when I'm pregnant again? So I started this pregnancy even higher than the first one. And Marcus like, that's okay. We're just going to do what we can do. We're going to just be on a healthy journey, making good habits. And I think, okay, great. So then I lose that pregnancy. There's no heartbeat at the first appointment. So I'm like, okay, we're going to continue on this health journey to lose the pregnancy from the weight from the first pregnancy. And the fall comes around and I'm super sick again. But this time, instead of vomiting daily, I'm like having to eat a ton to not be nauseous all day. And as much as I want to follow my meal plan, I'm really struggling. So at that point, we paused my first TLF journey, and you can kind of see my weights here on the screen. At that point, I am starting the second journey of the pregnancy at a lower weight than my first pregnancy at 163 versus 174. And these are like huge numbers for me that I never thought I'd get to in my lifetime. And I was like already thinking, oh my gosh. So I skyrocket. I get to above 200 by the end of this pregnancy. And I think, okay, Marcus has already made a lot of growth with me in a short amount of time. I've got to get him back, like in my life, back on this positive journey. So literally we're starting when I deliver the baby. I come home and I'm starting my meal plan when I get home from the hospital. And now I've lost over 50 pounds, and we can now joke that Marcus makes you so hot that you can get pregnant twice in 4 months, and you can lose over 50 pounds having dark chocolate every day. So I just re-upped another 6 months, and that was a big decision between my husband and I, because 2 little kids in daycare is a big commitment financially. So to do something else, but it's been so productive and positive for me that he was like, I think another 6 months, you're just going to continue to build on those habits you've already started. And there's still categories I'm going to talk about later that I don't really have down yet that I need to continue to work on. I'll kind of pause there in case anyone has questions about that.
Yeah, love that, Krista. It's a great description of it. Yeah, if anybody has anything they want to add on to it, obviously we can stop and talk about that. And yeah, and I don't know if I missed it or not, but so after you had joined that first time, you know, I remember you, Krista, had lost, I don't know, 20 plus pounds or so. And really we had a good transformation going before you got pregnant for that third time, essentially kind of going into it. And I remember when I wanted to post your transformation pictures, you were like, you can post them, just don't crop my head out. And you still didn't like it. And it's funny because now we come around kind of full circle this summer, and I'm like, hey, do you mind if I post these pictures and whatnot? And you're like, go for it. Like, this can be a positive thing for anybody else to be able to see, and it might resonate with them. And I love that your mindset just on that one little thing, it's not a huge deal, but it is a huge deal because you understood where you at and how that could help other people as well, because you've come so far.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, if anybody has anything to say, you know, pop it in the chat or just put your hand up or whatever, but we'll go on to the next slide here then. There we go.
Okay. So to kind of get a little bit of a kickstart on what we're going to do next week, I've already mentioned I'm a teacher. I teach 5th grade. I've been married 3.5 years. We have a 2.5-year-old and a 6-month-old. We're big sports fans. We have season tickets to Royals, Chiefs, Mizzou, and the reason I put Junior League and our church country club Christian on there is because when I joined with Marcus, I think I was on 8 committees and then had a little kid. And Marcus it's a little different, you know, when your husband is telling you things and you're like, you just don't have enough time to like take care of yourself. You're like, oh yeah, I can do it all. And then Marcus is like, you need to prioritize yourself. And you're like, okay. And so, when you see someone as an expert telling you, it's a little different. And then I have Indianapolis, Denver, Nashville, and Chicago on here because if we are not here, we are traveling because none of Greg's family is here. They're all over 8 hours away. So it's affected my TLF journey because I'm having conversations with Marcus, like, what do I do when I'm on the road going to see these family members, and preparing what that is going to look like has been a whole nother aspect to my TLF journey.
Mm-hmm. Well, and on top of that, you know, them coming to see you as well, because it's not like my parents just popping over for, you know, an hour or two. It's for days or weeks at a time, especially with newborns around. They want to see their grandbabies and things like that. So then you've got to manage, like, how do I be a good hostess to, you know, my husband's family and my in-laws and whatnot, but also I've got goals and priorities and stuff. And you know, I know that you kind of struggled with that this last bout, like this last summer, once you had your baby and whatnot, we just talked about. And I think this is always important. I'm trying to talk to, you know, my client, you know, new clients as they come on board, about the importance of having the conversations up front, even if you don't think it's going to be a bad conversation, you think everybody's going to be totally supportive. And especially if you don't think they're going to be very, very supportive, is just having those kind of hard conversations up front. Like, this is, I'm starting this journey for me, and I've got all these different reasons for it. And usually once they see that you're serious about it, people are going to only try to be helpful for it. You know, I think you said, Christa, like, they were starting to try to like make things and stuff like that to kind of fit what you were doing, which is awesome. Even if they're incorrect in how to do it, the point is that they're trying to be respectful of what it is that you're doing. So once we have those, what we thought were going to be really hard conversations, it only makes it easier. It makes it much more understood with everybody that we're dealing with it. So then when you say, hey, I'm going to turn this down, they're not insulted by it. They understand that you have goals that you're working on. The quality time is what matters the most when we're talking about family and stuff. And ultimately, the only reason why somebody's ever going to be upset with you for not eating that stuff, or whatever the case is, especially if it's something unhealthy, or you're not drinking, why you're not drinking, well, they're being reflective on their own issues with that. You know, they know they shouldn't be eating that food or drinking that food. So that's usually their own issue if they're going to be negative, but they're usually being positive.
Yeah. And to shed a little bit more light on what Marcus is sharing, Greg played football in college, and his two sisters played college volleyball, and his dad was college baseball, and his mom's really fit. And so I kind of felt a little inferior with his side of the family, that health for them is just, they look like more athletic build and fit naturally. And so when I'm like doing this huge, like, kind of health journey battle, it was hard for me to talk about, like, well, if it's not hard for them, how are they going to understand what I'm going through? And are they going to judge me? But like Marcus said, they're buying blueberries and yogurt for my smoothies and hard boiled eggs, and trying to have that they see me eating, which it would have been easier to just tell them up front, like, this is what I'm doing and this is what it looks like, than for them to have, like Marcus said, the guesswork to try to help.
Yeah, the guesswork. And then when you're not partaking in stuff, then they feel insulted, possibly, like, why is this the case? So yeah, I mean, communication, I would say that as well with our you know, initial calls that we all get on, is that communication is the most important thing you can do with me, but any relationship that you want to see work is that communication side of things.
So Marcus asked me about my health history. Up to this point, I was doing group exercise classes. I joined Woodside. I wanted over 100 classes a week were offered. And I was like, this is me. I was at Mizzou when it was in Sports Illustrated as one of the top 10 rec centers when it was built, going to group exercise classes. I'm comfortable with running. I've done every sport, lifting. I feel like my form was really good. So I wasn't uncomfortable like going to any of his sessions. I was like, oh, that, you know, that's T-ball. Like, I got this. I'm just wanting to get my butt out of the house to the gym. But I wanted to kind of like tiptoe my foot into the water too. And I didn't want to tell Marcus like, hey, this is kind of easy for me, but he recognizes that quickly anyway. I also could go eat like a lot of fried appetizers at happy hour, drink whatever I wanted, go jump on the treadmill, run 3 miles, and feel like I could maintain my body, eat whatever I want. I was trying new recipes all the time. And then I met my husband, and before that, I was dating like all these Greek gods that were kind of built like Marcus, but we were not compatible as far as getting married. And then my husband does not value exercising nearly as much as what I would desire. And so we were eating differently, we were working out differently, and I started to make concessions as far as my fitness and my health so that we could spend more time together and build upon that relationship. And then it was just to my own detriment. So I was hoping that things would change and we would be on a health journey together. And when that didn't happen, I thought, okay, I need to do something to maintain this relationship, but maintain myself as well in a good capacity.
Yeah. And it's very hard to do. I think, it's important. I've got a couple people in here that I know are in new relationships as well, is that it's important to, think about what your goals are when you're kind of starting with that with somebody else. And think about how we can merge these things, your wants and your goals, merge that with what it is you're doing. And again, it's those hard conversations like this. These few things are super, super important to me, and they're essentially non-negotiables in what I'm doing. You don't have to necessarily do them with me, but just to be supportive with it and allow me to do this and not make that a big thing, and show that balance with it. That was something that I had to have that same conversation with Nicole up front. It was easy because she was already in the gym and whatnot, but like it had to be understood from day one. Like, this is what I do. This is not just what I want to do, but I know it's what I need to do for the longevity of my entire life and to live and feel the way I want to. So regardless whether I want to or not on any given day, it's got to be a part of a kind of what it is that I'm doing with it and communicate that. But yeah, no, so that's kind of what those.
The further TLF, we both have made changes because of what Marcus has said, not necessarily what we've said to each other. Like,
Yeah.
he listens to the Zoom sometimes and we'll pick up different things, like we're buying raw vegetables with hummus instead of like chips and dip like we used to. And he has listened to the hierarchy of needs and things like that. So it slowly progresses, but it just takes time to, what does that eyes look like?
And I love hearing that as well, because I mean that's something that we can branch kind of off this, and I don't want to get too off topic, but the content that you guys are consuming, the content that we're listening to and watching and reading on a daily basis, it becomes what your thoughts are whenever you're away from that stuff. So if you're constantly, all of us probably did this during COVID, you're listening to the news 24/7. It's also during presidential elections. So all you hear is negative stuff and angry stuff and people that are just so frustrated. And then it makes you a more frustrated and short-tempered person as well. Same thing with social media. Doesn't have to be all bad things. If you're on Instagram, it could just be a waste of time and a bunch of just stuff that's just clouding your mind and whatnot. Or you could have a lot of balance on there. You could have a lot of educational stuff and following the right things that are keeping you motivated in the right direction, listening to podcasts or music, whatever the case is, that's moving you in that better direction. So that's a good example of that. He's not even choosing to listen, just by listening, just by being in the room. It can be just kind of helpful to hear that. So I love hearing that as well. That's awesome.
Yeah. And it's kind of like the love languages too. He'll go out of town and he'll make a bunch of protein for me, knowing that it's just one less thing that I don't have to worry about on my plate when leaving me with two little kids. So
that's awesome. That's definitely huge. Well, and then again, with the little kids as well, is that you're building these habits together, and as they get old, because they're all young right now, and the older they get, they're going to see that this is just how we do things. It's a lot easier to start off a life like that, a child's life like that, versus, hey, we eat like shit for the first 17 years, and then okay, now you got to figure things out because we're heavy and we don't feel good and we don't have any good confidence and we have poor gut health and everything else that comes along with it. And now we enter our 20s and we're like, well, shit, I've been doing this way for 20 years. It's going to be really hard to reverse this. I really wish I'd have been taught this differently as I grew up. So again, the more we can do for those kids to make it easier on them. So
milestones are a good time to make those changes. Like, I think about Brad and Lexi and Marcus and Nicole, like people, I'm guessing you guys are like a decade behind Craig and I, that when you have those kids and you want them to build those good habits, well, we're already providing clean, non-processed food for them. Why aren't we doing it for ourselves when they solids and so forth? And so no matter, we have a variety of ages on here, your kids that are grown as adults, grandkids, like wanting to live longevity for them, and where everyone's having kids later. So just so important to maintain that health. So my background before joining TLF, to add on to that, was I was doing some different health apps. I was doing Orange Theory. I had a gym membership. I was working out with friends a couple days a week. I mean, I had a lot of stuff going, but I didn't have commitment to any one thing. And so it was easy to drop something that I was doing because it was just a tangled mess and it didn't really have any cohesiveness. So I didn't have any restraint, like as my diet. Greg and I were just eating frozen pizza, cereal, pasta, Kraft Mac, like ordering lasagna, Alfredo. There wasn't a lot of protein, fruit, veggies. This was pre-kids. We were just kind of being easy and like enjoying life and Netflix, blah, blah, blah. It wasn't fun to go clothing shopping anymore. I was coming up with reasons to not go to Woodside classes because I felt like I couldn't keep up, or I didn't want to be like red faced and run into an ex or something when I was all like gross and not feeling good about myself. I wasn't going to a pool or lake with my girlfriends anymore. So I started recognizing you are changing your lifestyle because of how you look and feel right now. And you're saying, well, your metabolism's slowing down, like you're making excuses that is out of your control, but it's not. It's actually within my control. And I'm just not doing anything about it. So I didn't want to continue to give up and just buy bigger, bigger, bigger sizes. What could I do to try to manage that?
And it's very, very hard to do, to be able to call yourself out on your bullshit that you're telling yourself. It's easy to lie to yourself over and over and over again and kind of close your eyes to whatever the problem is that's in front of you, and just turn a blind eye to it and be like, I'll deal with this later. I'll deal with this in a year or 2 years.
Whatever. And that's
and especially when it comes to our health and our bodies. I mean, the older we get, the harder it is to make changes. Our habits are much more solidified the older we get. Not to mention, our bodies don't respond the older we get with this. So it's just like investing. What can I do now as a 20-year-old or 30-year-old or 40-year-old to set myself up for success 10 years, 20 years, 30 years down the road? And by just closing your eyes to whatever the problem is, it's only going to be worse. And it's going to be harder to deal with as it gets there. Cool. All right. So TLF journey, the next slide on this.
Okay. So the things I was able to tackle the first time doing TLF, okay, I'm doing the check-ins. I'm recognizing, these are the poor habits that I have. Here's some mindsets that are inaccurate or misconceptions. Here's how to follow a diet. Here's how to look at macros, but I wasn't really tracking. I wasn't able to substitute. If I didn't follow Marcus's meal plan to the T, it was like, well, shit, the whole day's gone to crap and I'm just going to eat whatever I want. And then I'm going to start fresh tomorrow and follow it exactly. I was starting to look at food labels because of the macros. I was starting to understand, that's a tablespoon. That's how much salad dressing I'm usually using. That's how much bread I'm putting on a piece of bread. Like, also some self-restraint. This dessert here at work, partaking is going to inhibit my day and my numbers. So I was building more awareness, but some of the other more sophisticated pieces I hadn't got to yet. So the second time around, I have those foundational pieces that Marcus had established with me, but things that maybe came easier to everyone else here, I was still trying to figure out tracking macros and then substituting foods. And I even had to ask him, like, okay, well, my protein, my fat, my carbs, I may be in range with one of them, but they're not all three in range. And then I'm upset and like, which one do I focus on more? And etc. Nailing down the hierarchy of needs and figuring out, okay, with sleep, supplements, nutrition, workouts, if I'm not doing all of them, if I'm not able to juggle all of those balls at one time, what do I start with? Help me prioritize my energy. And then when I was starting to get the meal plan down, then I felt comfortable enough that I can start, I want to have the eggs with scrambled eggs in the morning, or, I want to have them hard boiled on a salad or hard boiled as a snack. I could figure out, do I like my smoothie in the morning or the evening? And that comfortability helped me get to where I'm at right now, which is hopefully pre-logging my meals. Right now, I pre-log my lunch and then do what Marcus has talked about a few times, figuring out my dinner based on what I've already had in the day. And Greg and I are still working on what meal prep and getting that down with a family of 4. and not missing out on the special time with the kids on the weekend. And also my energy is kind of spent in the evening. So what is a good system for that? We're still working on. And the last one we've already talked about earlier is vocalizing to others the journey that I'm on and being comfortable in that capacity.
Yeah. That's a great reflection. And just so everybody knows, like if we do these again, you don't have to do a whole PowerPoint. Christa is a teacher, so this is what she already does anyway. And it's easier just to get it organized before I get asked to do an interview or anything like that. I've got my full notes with it. But yeah, no, those are all great things. First time, second time, what you're still working on. I love your thought process with all this stuff. I'm sure it was probably kind of fun diving into this reflection of your journey with it and just seeing like how far I really came with it. You know, this to me is the better transformation than just what our physical pictures show. Is that this truly shows your entire life's transformation, you know, over the past 2 years, but over the past couple of decades, and you know, your journey along the way. So I appreciate you putting all this together. It's kind of cool to be able to see it as the actual journey, as opposed to just, you know, me asking the question, you kind of diving into it. Biggest advice.
So when I was thinking about, okay, there's already a ton of questions in that initial questionnaire that you fill out.
Mhm.
And when I filled out the food on it the second time, I really was way more thoughtful about it. So I thought, okay, if I'm going to be eating these foods every day, I'm going to be really careful about my rankings. And the first time I was just kind of haphazard about it. And so my advice for someone joining TLF, and when you guys talk to your friends and family about potentially joining, that would be my biggest thing. And I'd be curious to hear what everyone else's is.
Mhm.
But also honest about your mindset, because I remember thinking about my brother, why are you putting your kid in childcare at the gym when you could be spending that quality time? And I thought that's because I don't do a good job prioritizing myself and my self-care. That's to my own detriment. So now I'm not, those things that I was judgmental about is because I needed to shift some of my mindset so that it would work out better for longevity of my life with my child. You know, I was being kind of short-sighted. And then the same thing with diet, sleep, working out, judgments about yourself as well as others. Those are the types of things that I think you have to kind of take a second look at before you can move forward.
Mm-hmm. And my questionnaire is only, I mean, even since you rejoined in June or May or whatever month it was, that's continued to change. Anytime I think of another question, I'm like, this would be really important though. You know, now it's about, I've got added questions there talking about your relationship with food, your relationship with your body, your level of self-efficacy. You know, how many days do you feel rushed leaving your house to get to work, like that type of stuff, as well. And kind of, and so, yeah, like you said, you know, being super reflective with that is definitely a big part of it. Just curious as to your point about, was it your brother was questioning you on putting your kids in childcare at the gym, or you were questioning him?
50 custody. So I remember thinking in my head, oh, if you have limited amount of
Oh,
time,
I gotcha.
how can you put them in gym daycare? But now I'm thinking, Christy, you need a gym with daycare. So you should never judge someone on their health journey.
Yeah. 100%. And I definitely get that quality time side of things. And your point about that, because that definitely makes sense as well. The other cool thing though, and obviously you've realized like, okay, I do need this, like this is an important thing to be able to do, but I think it's awesome. I mean, I've been in childcare at gyms since I was an infant. You know, as soon as I was of age to kind of go walk, my dad would be playing basketball in the gym. I get to stand on the side and kind of watch him. Like it was a part of our daily routine, our weekly routine, my Saturday routine to go to the gym. And yeah, I didn't always want to be in the daycare, but it instilled literally in me as an infant that we go to the gym. And so then as soon as I was able to make the choice, hey, I'm going to start going to the gym, I was able to start going with him and actually working out. And then as soon as I got a car, it was the first thing I was making sure I was doing. I was going to the gym. That was one of the places I was so excited to drive to and kind of do on my own with it. And obviously that's me. That's not necessarily everybody, but I think that's, again, just like the meal prepping, just like our mindsets at home. It's like the gym is part of what we do, or just exercise. It doesn't have to be the gym. It could be going on walks, could be going on runs, whatever the case is.
Well,
But
it is now asking for walks, which is kind of like my own 2.5 foot trainer here, right?
Yeah.
In the living room, is that, he knows the difference between the stroller and the jogging stroller. So he can kind of push me, So
That's
nice.
awesome. That's cool. And I bet that it's more fun for him to be in the stroller when you're running as opposed to just walking with it. So he's like,
Yep.
I'm gonna go fast.
Right.
That's cool. That's
great.
a good motivator.
Not having the family time or quality
Yeah.
time.
Well, and that's, yeah, exactly. That is quality time. That's fun. And you're having quality time with doing something that's healthy versus quality time binging and just eating a bunch of snacks on the couch and watching a movie. That's great. And I have those memories as well. And that's fantastic and super important. But it's good to have that balance with it. You know what I mean? Like on Sunday, I sat on the couch for literally 12 hours because I haven't had that kind of a day. And we just kind of snacked all day long. Like it wasn't the best food day for me. I usually wouldn't say that, but I needed it for my own mental health with it because I've worked for 3 straight weeks with it. So like I look forward to that and I crave that type of thing, but then I crave just as much to get to the gym the very next day. That's awesome. So then in the next 5 years.
So it was interesting for me to reflect on what I would want looking down the road. Mm-hmm. So I broke by Marcus's different categories of health, habit, time, and lifestyle. And health, making time for workouts, regardless of what's on the family schedule, as we start getting more into sports, eating cleaner, less processed food. Maddie's going to be doing solids here soon. And so we just want to keep on that track for our family of eating cleaner. And Greg and I have already started changing grocery lists to reflect that, which has been nice. Setting good examples for kids. We've talked about building routines as a family, such as family walks, getting everyone bikes, making it a part of, like Marcus said, what you do as a family, going to bed at a reasonable time, because I remember it's like a yoga guru in Kansas City and was talking about not having good self-care. And this was before I knew anything about TLF. And she's like, well, you just need to get up earlier. And I thought, if she's telling a new mom that you need to get up earlier and carve it out of your sleep, then she has no understanding of what I'm going through at this stage in my life, because sleep is a commodity. Like, lady, I would love to just shower on a routine basis, And Marcus has never once said, carve out of your sleep to get more done. And so that helps me understand that he knows, without being in my shoes, how things are going in my life. And he's recognized, like, hey, this is a hard time, but this is only a season. Like, that's been really helpful. So being realistic about what you can accomplish, what are the priorities. And even our mutual friend that got me started on TLF, he said, Christa, don't you think you could just, at this point, do the meal plan that Marcus provided for you, like, on your own? And I said, I love to say that, but I don't have that accountability. And he is still helping me grow in so many ways that's why I re-upped again, because I'm still not quite where I need to be. Like, in 5 years, I hope to be. So having the confidence in pictures, not having to wear a jacket because I feel like my arms are not toned, and living in a healthy way to see kids grow up that I had later in life, and a better understanding with Greg and I, how to support one another. What do you need? Or like, what can I do to help you feel more whole and complete this particular week? And so it's been really nice. The TLF is not just my looking good in pictures where I feel like, okay, we can do family Christmas pictures and I'm not cringing, or I can fit in a bridesmaid's dress that's half the size that I was. But it's more and bigger than that.
I love that. And like I said before, like it is bigger than the pictures. And this whole, PowerPoint, your responses to the questions I sent you earlier today are completely aligned with that. That's awesome. Is this your last page?
I don't even know. Yeah.
I think it was. Well, Christa, thank you so much for that. I mean, that was awesome for me to kind of hear that reflection, even though I knew your journey, like it's nice to hear it from your words and how you feel about yourself and about your journey and whatnot. And I would assume that that's going to resonate with a lot of people on here as well, and they can kind of understand where you're coming from with it. So I truly appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing a lot of that stuff, because I know that's not always the easiest thing to do, especially with strangers.
Yeah. And thank you guys for your time and like being a listening audience to my journey. And I look forward to hearing everyone else's.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely want to do these more often. I probably won't do it every single week, but to break it up. I think it's nice for you guys not to just be listening to me ramble on for an hour. Well, thank you so much, Krista. I'll let everybody go, but yeah, Krista, again, thank you so much for doing this for us all. Thank you. Thank you. All right, guys, I'll be sharing this later. But then everybody else just have a great week. Kick ass tomorrow with check-in day and have a good weekend. Thank you again, Krista.